Okay, good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube, just Daf It. We're learning today Kesubos stuff, Memdala number 44. Great cheer for you today. I'm dressed in my finest white shirt and tie. I've left my jacket at home, even though it's not so far away my home, and I could technically go get the jacket. For any of you that are married and have numerous little kids at home, you know it's not worth it to go back home for your jacket. So it looks more casual anyway. I mean, that's, we're trending now, 2022. We all want to be dressed more casual. Some people don't want to go to work anymore. They want to work remotely. If you go into work, you got to dress more casually. I predict in a year from now, people, if they're going into the office, they're wearing white polo shirts and nice blue slacks with some nice, I don't know, penny loafers or something like that. But of course, happy socks. That's going to be the dress code in the coming years. You want to invest maybe in good polo shirts. I myself already stocked up on 5 white polo shirts and 2 gray polo shirts. Designer companies, of course, Hilfiger, Ralph Lauren, Nautica. So I've got my polo shirts ready. I got 4 pairs of Hager pants, blue Hager, nice dress pants. I got some penny loafers. I got my happy socks. So I'm a year ahead of schedule. This is the more casual look. There were a couple shiurim where I did actually brandish my white polo shirts. They arrived a couple months ago, but it's not in line with the times right now. This is not accepted in the firm community to go around walking with a white polo shirt. So I kept them in the drawer. I stuffed them away. Today, a little more casual, just a regular white shirt with a tie. Business-like, right? All right, let's get started. Mem Gimel on Bees. The Gemara says on the bottom, the Gemara we talked about yesterday, about collecting your ksuba. Not really collecting it, we'll explain more in Inu Ben Sion, but in terms of when the shibud of the ksuba exists, your govem mizman rishon or govem mizman sheni, mina erisim and esuin, right? There's ramifications when the shibud, right? The shibud is the lien of the loan. Normally, a loan has a lien attached to it. That if the person defaults on the loan, you can collect from property he sold after the time of the loan. And even if you don't write it in the shtar, we're going to learn today, you can write it in the shtar. You can collect. Because Achrayas tells Sofer, if he made a mistake, the scribe made a mistake not to write a lien. Every shtar has a lien in it built into it. If it's a milval peh, the Gemara Basra says, if I loan you money, I give you money, I don't want to write a shtar, a written document. So there's discussion, and then Misachas Baba Basra, is there a shibud or not? Whether it's the Raisa, the Rabbanan. Let's get into this Gemara over here. So we had a machlokas yesterday. Rav Asi said, both, right? The ksuva itself and the tosefes ksuva, the shibud on both of those amounts of money goes from the nisuin, from when you get married. That's seemingly how you paskin. Rav Huna was the first opinion. Rav Huna says that the ksuva you collect from the erisin, and the tosefes ksuva, we're going to learn about the tosefes ksuva, you're going to add on money to the regular mano masayim to make it more because you like the girl so much. So that is collect the tosefes from the nisuin according to Rav Huna. So the Gemara challenges Rav Huna, even though it's not the halacha. Rav Huna hachi ayitmar hayihotzi alav shtei kesubos achas shel masayim achas shel shalosh meos. It's about 8 lines from the bottom. The man somehow the woman somehow had 2 kesubos. One document said 200, and one document said 300. 200 for the regular kesuba, an extra 100 for the tosefes kesuba. If you can't collect with both of them, we'll see. But you collect with the first one, you collect from the first time, from the erisin. If you want to collect from the second one, you collect. Sorry, the time the loan was written, the loan was written, the ksuba was written. If you want to collect from the second time, you collect from the second time. The Misa, right? It's true according to Rav Huna that Rav Huna says that already at Shas erisin, right, she's getting the ksuba when she gets married. If already B'shas erisin, right, you get it. You're entitled to the manu masayim. The lien goes into effect of the erisin. Tigbi Masayim is man Rishon, Meim is man Sheni. Even if she comes to collect with the 300 one, she'll have to collect 200 from the Erisin, according to Rav Huna, and the extra 100 from the Nisuin. Utamayach Tigbi Chamish Mels Kulam. According to your reasoning, the Gemara asks back, maybe she should collect 500. Masayim is man Rishon, Klas Meim is man Sheni. She technically has 2 loan documents. What's the reason? Chamish Mels my time lo garbage. She can't collect 500. Given lo Kosovo lot Sabida lo Sifa la Klas Meim. I'm Masayim. He didn't write in one star. I'm giving you the regular 200, plus I'm adding 300. So the Hachik Gamrla, this is what he meant to say by giving her 2 different loan documents. He was man Rishon Gabia. So if you want to collect from the first time, Gabia Masayim, right? Collecting the Eris and collect Masayim is man Sheni Gabbois. If you want to collect from the second time, Gabia Klas Meya, then you collect 300, but you collect at a later time. That's why he wrote 2 different documents. Top of him, Dalam and Olive. Hachanam behind the time of the Gabia, the Lokosov la Osifis lach Meya Masayim, Achule Achiltil the Shabuda Kama. If he would have wrote in the second star, right, I'm adding 100 to the previous 200 in the first star, so then we could say that everything, even the extra 100, comes already from the first time, from Erisin, according to Rav Huna. The fact that he didn't write that, he just wrote a completely new star, shows that he was mochel the first shibud. He was mochel the first shibud, and if you want to collect the second one, you have to collect everything from the new time. Amar Mar, Ibaya b'hai gabia, Ibaya b'hai gabia. Right, the Gemara said before, if she wants to collect the 200, she collect from the time of the 200. The 300 from the time of the Nisuin. Leiman pliga the Rav Nachman. Say there's arguing Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman. Shnei shtaros hayotzim b'zachar zeh. Right, regular loan documents, not loan documents. We're talking about a Kesubos, someone lend money to someone. Right, there were 2 loan documents. Right, Bitel Sheni Esarishan wrote the exact same thing. We're going to see in both loan documents. All right, the first one is gone. The first loan document is gone, and the only loan document that is valid is the second one, because by writing a second loan document, it shows that he wants to get rid of the first one. So the Gemara says, "Mar'ola Amar of Papa Mother of Nachman Yosef Beit Diklo Josephus Kas V'Achanami Ha Osef Lamidi." The Gemara says the reason over here when he wrote first 200, wrote first 300 is because he added something in the second one, right? If he would have wrote the same star 200, 200, so obviously he shows he doesn't want the first one. He only wants the second one to be valid. But if he adds something in the second one, it shows that he's giving her an option. If you want, you can collect the first one, which is less money, but you get an earlier shibud, or you collect the second one, which is more money but a later shibud. That's what it says. If you write it more in the second star, that doesn't mean you want to avatal the first star. Just you want to give her an option. Gufa Amar of Nachman Shtei Shars Yosef Mizach is that Bitel Shein is original. Amar of Papa Amor of Nachman, like the Gemara says, the Yosef a diklo Tosefes Kasvei. If he adds in the second star, even a palm tree, even a little bit of a palm tree is a little bit of land, it's considered not Navatal, the first one, Pshita. And where the Pshita regional Mecher B'Shem Matan Liafos Koko the Kozle. Let's say the first time he sold him something, I'm selling you a piece of land. And the second document says, I gave you the piece of land as Matana. Right? So we don't say in that case the second one is Navatal, the first one. Right? The reason you wrote the second one is Liafos Koko the Kozle, Mishum Dina the Bar Metzra. Because the reason he writes the second one is he wants to say, if you want to collect it, you want to be sold the land, right? You're going to pay for the land, right? So then you have to take it from the first one. And the reason I wrote a second document and say it's a matana, it's not showing that I'm a vatel. It's not a case like Rav Nachman says, it's bitel shenis arisha, even though it's the same land. The reason he wrote in the second one is a matana because of the halacha of bar metzra. Bar metzra is when you buy a piece of property that's on the boundary of somebody else. And he also, the person who owns the adjacent property, also wants to buy it. So if it's for the same price, we're offering the same price, so technically, because it's in the bar metzra, but sisa yashar atov, the Gemara says in Bava Metzia that you have to sell it to the guy with the adjacent property because the other guy can find property somewhere else. This guy, it's important to be able to, have his properties in one place. And even if the guy actually sold, the owner of the property actually sold it to the other person and not to the person with the adjacent property, he can go to Beis Din and motzi that in Beis Din. So that only applies when he's selling the land. However, if he gives a matana to somebody, so we don't assume that he has to give it to the adjacent property because the whole reasoning is that the other guy can go elsewhere and buy land, but you can't always go elsewhere and get a free house. You're not going to get a free house somewhere else. So therefore, the reason you wrote in the second star matana is to tell you if you want to give him strength, if you want to use a second star, it's better than the first one because there's no dina de bar metzra. The adjacent property can't remove you from the land. Because you can Rishon, and certainly Rishon Matana V'Sheni V'Mecher Darminu Shem Dina the Baal Kov who the cost of can. If you gave The first one he gave matana to someone. A house is a matana. The second one, he sold it to him. Right. The reason he wrote it as a mecher is because of the balchov. Right. A balchov wants to collect money from him. Normally he has a sheet, but he has a lien on the land. Now, if after the loan takes place, or previously this guy, he borrowed money from somebody, then he gave a field first as a matana, he wrote one shar as matana, and then a shar as a mecher. So the reason he wrote the second shar as a mecher is not to mavatal the first shar, because if it's a matana, so if you leave out the shibud, if you leave out, you write a shtar to someone that'll be as matana, so we don't assume. Saying the loan document that this person originally wrote, he borrowed money from somebody else, he can only collect things, a matana he can collect, but a mecher, even if there was no shibud written in it, he can't collect. He can't collect the mecher because matana he can collect, but the mecher he can't technically collect. This Gemara will be explaining this svara more in Bava Metzia, exactly what this means. Basically, let me just explain a little better. Here, the article says in footnote number 7. Here, meaning, let me explain this a little better. Meaning, person A, Ruvain, borrowed money from Shimon. Now, Ruvain borrowed money from Shimon, so Ruvain is now first giving his field. After he borrowed money, he borrowed $100,000. So once he borrowed $100,000 from Shimon, so technically, all your properties have a lien on them. If you were to sell them or to give them to somebody else, this person, if you default on your loan, this person can collect from them. Now, if you give property to someone as matana, that person has no recourse anymore. If he collects, if he defaults on his own, Reuben defaults on his own to Shimon, and Shimon collects a matana, a gift, he has no recourse. He can't get reimbursed for that field. If you got him a shtar as a mecher, a shtar that he sold the field to him, so then he has recourse. He can come back to Reuben and say, yes, this guy, he's entitled to take the land because there's a shibud on the land, even though he sold the house to me, but I can have recourse and I can get the value of the house back eventually from Ruvain. That's why he wrote the second one is not mavatal the first one in that case. Both sharos say it's exactly the same thing. Both say it's a sale or both say it's matana. So then the second one replaces the first one. My time. Meaning by writing a second one, he's admitting to him that I want to mavatal the first star. All it means is he's mochel on the shibud. My benayu. What's the difference between them? Ikabenayu arui sadek, ulishlume pirula taska. All right, there's three differences how you say it. Is it mavatal completely the first star, or is it saying the first star is okay? I just want the shibud, meaning the lien, only to be recorded. The time of the lien to only be recorded from the second star. So what's the nafkamina? Three nafkaminas between them. One nafkamina is if it's according to Rafram. The first mavatal is the star. We said the first star is a false star. The Adam that signed it are signing on a false star, and he's being made. These are bad Adam. The Adam become psuli Adam. Second nafkamina, if you're completely mavatal the star, so therefore, if the person who got the house or the land, from the time of the first star, and he eats fruits on that land, from the trees that grow on that land, he has to return it, because he's saying, I only sold it, you only give it as a present from the second time. The first one is batal, and the third, latasko, is a property tax, if he's mavatal the first star, so then when you're mavatal the first star, basically you're saying that now it only belonged to you from the second time, and therefore the property tax is the person who owned the land, which was him, who owned the land originally. According to the second opinion, they just mochel the shibud. It means that really the first guy owned it from the first time, and therefore he pays the property tax. And the second guy, it's just in terms of the shibud. That's the difference. So my haviyala, back to our discussion about ksuva. How do we pass? Tashma, Amar Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Mishum Lezer, Rabbi Shimon, Mana Masayim and Erusin. Mana Masayim are collected from the Erusin. Tosefes min Nisuin. Tosefes is collected from the Nisuin. Chamur me'echaz ve'echazem min Nisuin. Both are collection from the Nisuin. We're talking about the Shibud over here. Hilchasa echaz ve'echazem min Nisuin. Right? Of course, if there is a Kesuba min Erusin, therefore, if you get engaged to a woman and you write her Kesuba. So of course, even though the Gemara passes over here, echaz ve'echazem min Nisuin. The Shibud only takes from the Nisuin. However, the Erusin, if they get divorced or the husband dies after the Erusin, she does collect the Kesuba. She just doesn't have a lien on the property. Whatever, she doesn't have a lien on the husband's property. However, she does collect the Kesuba from his estate. She collects the 200 or 100. So all we're talking here is the Shibud over here. Those both, the Kesubos and the actual Kesuba, the lien comes in at the Nisuin. Before, if there's no Nisuin, then you collect the Kesuba without a lien. That's basically the halacha. We're going to explain that more in Ian with Ben Sion, the difference why the lien only, we pasuk in the lien only takes effect both at the Nisuin. However, the actual Kesubos, right, that he owes her money takes place at the Erusin. This is a Giorishan guy, Rabita Imo. A convert, right? She converts along with her daughter. Her daughter is younger than 3 years old. Vizinsa. And then this girl grows older. We're going to see she's a Nara Hamurasa. She's a Nara that is engaged, right? And the Parsha of Nara Hamurasa says that if it's proven, someone comes and tries to prove that she committed adultery after the Erusin, before the Nisuin. So even though normally adultery is only punishable by chenek, in the case of Nara Hamurasa, which is such a grievance, it's punishable by the worst punishment, skila. If it's true, so if they find that to be true, that she actually committed adultery at that point, so a number of things happen. First of all, she has to go to her father's, enters her father's house, and they give her skila, and basically they punish her like that. If they're found false, the eidim this person brought, so then he's considered a moti shemra, and it's worse than ma'anis a woman. You have to pay double. Instead of 50, you pay 100 salayim, and you also get malchus. The Gemara says you actually was one of the cases where you actually get money. You have to pay money and get malchus. So all these dinim, right, apply equally. Meaning, we'll see. Sometimes one of the dinim apply, one doesn't apply. But that's the case of Nara Hamurasa. I'm going to figure out who falls into the category of this Nara Hamurasa. So, if she was converted as a young child, right? She gets chenek. She doesn't have the din of a Nara Hamurasa, right? To get skila, she's just a regular adulteress, and she gets chenek. And also she doesn't go out. She's not stoned in front of her father's house. And also, there's no me'asela. If it's found to be motzi shemra, he doesn't pay 100 slaim. Maybe he gets malchus. Doesn't say. However, if she was conceived as a non-Jew and her mother converted while in utero, while she was pregnant, and she was born a Jew, then she's considered gets skila. However, the skila does not take place in front of her father's house. And there's no din of 100 slaim that if it's motzi shem, then he has to pay. If she was conceived, right, her mother converted before conception, and then she was conceived and born a Jew, she's a regular Jewish woman. Now, even though, right, she's considered a full Jewish, she's not related to her mother because her mother converted, right? Her mother converted. So, actually no, if her mother converted first, so then she's a regular Jewish girl, right? She has a mother. So the Gemara says, Yesh la av, ve'en la pesach beisav, Yesh la pesach beisav, ve'en la av. It says in the Torah she has a father, and she has her father's house, the entrance to her father's house. So if she has a father, but her father doesn't own a house, or doesn't have an entranceway to his house, he owns an apartment, let's say, or Yesh la pesach beisav, ve'en la av, or he does own a house, but her father already died. Nonetheless, she still gets skila. That's not something that holds back the dinim of Nara Hamurasa. It's just Pesach Zavia. If they have it, if it's available, you do it like that. So the Gemara says on the top of Mem Dal and Beis, Mnani Mili. How do you know about this din where Horasa Shalom B'Kedusha? I mean, she was conceived when her mother was not Jewish, and then while she was pregnant, the mother converted, and she was born a Jew. Mnani Mili. How do you know that she gets skila in that case, but there's no Pesach Beisav, no Me'asel? Amar Yish Lakish, Amar Kro, Mesa. It says if they prove her that she committed adultery, she dies. Mesa, why she died? They give her skill, of course she dies. Tells the extra pasuk to tell me to tell me not only in the case where she's a fully Jewish woman, even if she was conceived as non-Jewish, she also gets skill. Then if it's Mosi Shemra, in these cases also the Mosi Shemra, the defamer, should pay also the money, and he see her also he wouldn't get malchus. Amakro Mesa. The fact that it only included her in the word Mesa tells me that she only has the additional thing of getting skila, but the other parts of the parsha and the Torah don't apply. Maybe the Mesa is coming to include a case where her mother converted. Her mother's a Giores, right? Her mother's a Giores, and she was born a Jewish woman, and she not only born but also conceived it when her mother was Jewish. She's a regular Jewish woman. Maybe the apostle is coming to talk about even where she's this guy, she was born a non-Jewish girl, but she was converted younger than 3. It says in the Torah she's Yisrael, so she has to be at least partially Yisrael, right? So the fact that she's partially Yisrael will tell you that a Giores is not included. Amra and she would get chenek. Amra Yossi Bar Chanina, Amotzi Shemra Al Yisoma Pater. In the case where the girl, she's fully Jewish, however, she's an orphan, her father's dead, you're Pater. This is the Shita of Yosef Chanina. He says that she doesn't have a father, right? Then he's not chayiv as Motzi Shemra. The Mishnah said, right, if she doesn't have a father, right, you still do the skila over here. We're talking about the knas that he pays out if it's a Motzi Shemra. When it comes to the parsha Mafata, we talked about last parak, he seduces her. It says the word Mayin Yemoin, a double language, twice. The rabbis is some of the knas. To tell you that Soma pays out, even if she's an orphan girl, you pay the knas. Even if you glili, right? It's a machlokas. Who do you pay it to? The Gemara says, "Who most of la mafarikla?" The answer is the Gemara assumes the same thing that applies by Mafata applies by the case of Nara Morasa. The Gemara says the Baalav Achak Nisyasma. Here it's different, where the actual adultery came while the father was alive, and then the father died. And Rav Yossi Glili was talking about a case where the father already died before the seducing. Rav Rava argues, he says, even an orphan girl, you're chayav, imai. Tani ami, imi besulas Yisrael, imi. Right. It says, which is imi in the pasuk. Oh, sorry, Ami. Ami is a person. You just say Rav Ami. Ami says, Besulas Yisrael, lo Besulas Gerim. It says in the Torah, Besulas Yisrael. To tell you, lo Besulas Gerim. If you'll say, Ki Agavna Yisrael Mechayev, right? Besulas Gerim, if she is the daughter of convert, right? Her mother converted, and she also converted as a young girl along with her mother. So we know that a convert has no family. They have no mishpacha. They have no yichus. They have no relationships. So they converted independently. She converted as a young girl. She has no mother. No father either. If you'd say that this case, being an orphan, right, is normally chayiv. Therefore, you need a pasuk to tell you geirim are not like that. People think Yisoma is pater, like Rav Yisrael Chanina said, Hashta Yisrael pater begerim yibayile. Why does the pasuk that say Yisrael to exclude geirim? Geirim we know already, the fact that she's an orphan. So it must be that a regular orphan girl, she is chayiv. If he defames a ktana, well, girl is not a nar, she's a ktana murasa, right? You can engage your daughter as a ktana, and she commits adultery, she's pater. He's pater from paying the knas. Shenemar b'nasal via nara. It says the father nara with a hey. It says nara mole diber akas. Sometimes the Torah says the word nara without a hey, which leads you to believe it's sort of also talking about a ktana, because until she's bat mitzvah, she's not recognized as a girl so much, and that's why it says nara in the Torah to include the period of nara where she's a ktana, right? A nara sounds like a young boy. So if it says just Nara without a hey, even though you pronounce it hey, it also includes a Ketana. It has to be a girl, but she can be a young girl where it's not recognizable that she's a girl. Then she's recognizable she's a girl, but not she doesn't have all the simanim of an adult woman. Maskiv Lara Achavar Abba, time with the Kesubos Hanara. It says Hanara, the reason it says Hanara, Halo Lav Hachav, I mean I feel Ketana. Right, because Reish Lakish seems to say it says Nara with a hey, so therefore we know only a Nara, not a Ketana. Haksiv, but it says in the parsha, the Emes Hayisa Adav Hayadav or Hazel Lonim Subasulim Nara, Vosilas Nara Pesach Pesavia, Visaklua. Right, what happens if they find the girl to be guilty? You give her a skila, Ketana Labas Onshini. It can't be a Ketana. There's no way we're talking about a Ketana over here. She doesn't get punished. A Ketana is not responsible for her sins. Ella, what did Reish Lakish mean to say? Kan Nara Hakol Makom Shnemar Nar Afilu Ketana V'Mashma. No, we're learning from this parsha. Obviously, it's evident from this parsha. It's only talking about a Nara she's 12 years old. Otherwise, she wouldn't get punished. The fact that it says Nara with a hey over here to teach me everywhere else in the Torah where it says Nara without a hey is even talking about a Ketana. The only way it says Nara with a hey, we learn from this parsha is talking about it has to be 12 years old. A Ketana is not included. That's the conclusion of today's share. Hope you enjoyed. See you in Mishnah Yomi coming up next.